So are we going to move on to harmonizing?
Yep.
Okay, so the final expression of the ISTJ in career, kind of the energy attunement, is the harmonizing ISTJ.
Mm-hmm.
And this would be both of those cognitive functions holistic. They're more diffused. There's no analytic focus of these functions at all. They're diffused and they're open. So both of them are diffused now. How does this make an ISTJ show up differently?
Right. So this would be the opposite of the dominant, the harmonizing. And this is a more personal and reflective version of the type. So you're not going to have as many stereotypes around ISTJs here either, because this is a lot more of a, it's like very interpersonal, right? They put their heart into training other people to help them. And they really focus on those interpersonal sort of reflective qualities and characteristics. And so they end up having a more, especially if this has been developed over time, if this has come through age, it's a more sophisticated way of thinking and working that marries a little bit more of a reflection. Like, let's not just assume, let's not be single-minded on goals, let's not force anything. Yeah. There's less of that sort of chaotic creative energy. Not that an ISTJ is ever going to be that chaotic, but it's like a little less of that. But it's also a little less like, let's support the institutions. It's more of a personal way of going through life, observing and thinking one's way throughout it. And so it's going to be a chill vibe ISTJ. It's going to be a real chill vibe version. So there is a specialization that comes along with this. It's less specialist than the normalizing, but there are like ways of thinking that become harmonizing ISTJ's favorite way of experiencing things. And it's actually quite complex. So there's a mastery of certain elements that they really enjoy doing with complexity. And anything that falls in that wheelhouse is very exciting. But anything that falls out of it, sometimes they're not 100% sure how to engage with that thing. So an example of this could be as a counselor, really getting good at counseling other people by listening to them, watching their body language, understanding what all the little nuances mean, matching it to tools that they've used in the past and really being with that person and helping them guide. And then having all this complexity happening in the moment of counseling and coaching. But then once the situation is done and they're thrown in another situation, not having nearly the same sophistication. So there's a lot of mastery over interpersonal skills or anything that really helps individuals out or people out. And so these ISTJs gravitate towards anything that will put them in that position. So career-wise, they're looking at things like advising. They're far more likely to advise management than to be in management.
The consultants, maybe.
Right, exactly. They tend to gravitate towards marketing, right? We did another one where we talked about ESFP types, and it's like all four of them liked marketing. All the subtypes were like, I could do marketing. In this case, this is the ISTJ that will be attracted to marketing because it's more focused on the interpersonal skill of it. And there's a lot of focus on quality. So product quality might be something that really attracts them, or conducting trainings for people so that they have a really good user experience. There might be some acting as a liaison between organizational layers. So when people at this level need to communicate with people at this level, they might really sort of struggle, but this might be a person who can really bridge the gaps of communication.
So like a corporate translator, someone that maybe works with the technical department, like the tech team, the IT department, and maybe the people have to implement the information technology. This person's maybe a go-between bridge to bridge both worlds, this type of subtype.
Right. And because both of their functions are holistic, which means that they're just kind of more of an open person, there's an openness to navigating through situations, not in the way that maybe they've always had to, but more of an opening to what this situation needs of them. So there'll be less. There's less of a rut. They're not going to be an ISTJ that finds themselves necessarily in a rut as much or insisting that things be set up in a certain way. There's going to be more of an opening and working with the environment as they go through it. And so they're also good at working with students. So they might be a coach for students or a coach for employees. And there might be a lot of flexibility, right? There's like an openness to change with this style of ISTJ that gives them a certain seasoning, especially if this has been developed over time and not something that was enforced when they were young. If it's enforced when they're young, they might actually kind of struggle a little bit. But if it's something that they've learned over time, that like my way, that whole my way is the highway thing doesn't really work out, then on the other side, you'll see this really beautiful expression of an ISTJ that has that openness, that ability to train, but might have lost some of that managerial directive quality. Like goal orientation might not be as important to them as people orientation. And again, they might mistype. They might believe they're feeling types because they have that interpersonal focus.